Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is a program that we have actually had for a number of years running, but unfortunately for the past 2 years, Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut have had to run a little bit differently because of the restrictions, the pandemic, what we were able to do or not able to do. Thankfully, this year, we are able to gather back together. And it's been our tradition to use this time in between Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut to be able to feel a certain closeness to the losses of the families of Medinat Israel who have given their children to defend the country, and sometimes those children have paid the ultimate price. What we try to do as much as possible is to find someone here who can share a firsthand story of somebody that they know. A couple of years ago, Rabbi Wilchfort spoke about his mefaked, his commander. I approached Ami Endor. I have to get everything I can out of Ami before he leaves. So I asked Ami if he knew someone that he could speak about it, and he immediately had somebody that was close to him, and I'm very grateful that he's willing to share with us. I know for me personally, this makes my Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut more meaningful. I feel like you can only really properly appreciate the bracha of Yom HaAtzmaut if you're also understanding the sadness and the loss of Yom HaZikaron. They exist in my mind together as one pair. And so with no further introduction, I'd like to invite Ami to share some words with us. There's also been a video that was created that we'll show a portion of the video a little bit later. The video has no subtitles. As a result, we will have to, as a result, with I'm going to try and give you sort of a summarized translation of the portions, but it gives us actually the opportunity to actually see Avi, the soldier that Ami is going to speak about.
Good evening. Today I want to give you the story about my good friend from the high school, actually from the yeshiva. I want to give you the story of my good friend from high school, Yeshiva Tichonit called Midrashiyat Noam in Pardes Chana. I want to speak about him and about his story as much as I can. My friend Avi Avraham Yaakov Buk, is his nickname Avi, was the fifth child to his parents. He was born in 1975. His parents were born in New York, and immediately after their wedding, they decided that they want to make an aliyah, and they made an aliyah to Eretz Israel and decided to settle in a municipality called Savion. Savion is a municipality between Ben Gurion Airport and to Tel Aviv, very greenery area. His father was a very known physician, and he was the head of one of the hospitals in Israel. Avi grew up in Savion, and from young age, he was characterized by I would say, peace of mind. He was adamant. He was a role model to everyone. He all the time wanted to volunteer. He liked the society. He liked to help people. He was outstanding athlete as well, but he also loved the Eretz Israel and its landscape. He used to go to the north and to Negev, to the Jerusalem to travel with the friends. But what really characterizes him is willing to contribute, willing to give from him to other, to volunteer. This is also when he was at the age of around 11, 10, and when he joined to Bnei Akiva. Bnei Akiva is a young movement. I don't know, it's like
NCSY.
NCSY, yeah. He was also decided to be a guide there, and his trainee really esteeming all his students and appreciated him, and everyone has a story and said about him a lot of positive and said how he influenced himself, how his character impact them. He actually he was so adamant, but very, very silent. He wasn't the person that all the time wants to cry or to shout, but he knew what he wants. He adhered his value, he adhered his ideal, and this something, and all the time want to volunteer and to make with his friend, with his trainee, a lot of activities in order to be happy. After the elementary school, Avi continued to the middle school in Kfar Saba, and following to it, it was the first time I met him. It was in the yeshiva tichonit in the high school in Pardes Chana. Pardes Chana was our yeshiva was characterized in the philosophy that the management and the teachers and the rabbis wanted to give the independence to the student. They wanted that the student will express themselves, and they really encourage I would say the solidarity with the student. They support and encourage to help each other, to volunteer. The cohesion between in the grade was very important to the rabbis, and Avi did this role amazing. He was outstanding. He was adamant. He all the time wanted to volunteer. He was volunteer and he was active. I remember in Institute of Disabled Kids, for example, in nursing home, he used all the time. He always also tried to help students that had a problem in their studies, support them. I remember, because in our schools that we all the time try to make a kind of conflict with the teacher and the rabbis, and in the Gulf War, when there were missiles to Israel, in the first 2 weeks, they closed all the schools. After this, there was a decision to open. So the students disliked the fact that we need to continue now return to study. And we decided to escape from the boarding school. This is a boarding school. It's not external school. This is a school in which we live together and sleep together with the same room. We're sharing the same dining room, everything. I remember that we ordered the bus, and he said, look, this is something that I know that your actually motive is not a positive motive about it, and I will not do it. And he didn't do it. He didn't join. And in this age, when the mainstream did something, most of the kids following the mainstream, and it's not easy for a kid in this age to say something else, to be in the opposite side. He has the ability to, and he was so adamant. He was so peace of mind, and I can tell you that no one angry at him. No one said, wow, why he did it for, he stayed at the school. And all that, and always, if he wants to say something, he knows how to express himself brightly and to say something that maybe no everyone like it, but he is very important for him to say it. Avi has also had the ability to write. He's writing a lot of letters about their life, what he thinks, letters to friends. At that time, there was no Facebook, no Instagram, and he used and barely mobiles, yeah? And actually, he sent a lot of letters to his friend, to his family, in which he expressed his idea and what he thinks about the life. I remember that after we graduated, and maybe before we graduated, I remember that our principal of the school said that in the last year, where there is a matriculation in Israel, and all the students study for the matriculation in Gemara, and this is very 40 pages, and you need to learn Tosfot and Rashi and all the other commentaries. Everyone study for the matriculation in Shavuot holiday festival, and he saw that Avi is studying alone. He asked Avi, why are you alone? Why are you alone? And Avi answered, no one will destroy my festival, my holiday. I used to learn Masechet Menachot in Shavuot, and I will do it. He knows that everyone wants to ready to the oral exam, face to face. He knows that this is the time. He needs to be ready and needs to do it to learn Torah. It's called Ishma, to learn the Torah for the learning, not for other interest. After we graduated the school, I remember that I was waiting in the bus station to a bus to Tel Aviv, and suddenly someone stopped the car, make a reverse, told me, Ami, I'm so happy to see you. All the time he was in a smile, very good smile. He took me tramp, he do a run for me. He updated me that he now going to Ma'ale Gilboa Yeshiva. This is a yeshiva in the Gilboa mountain. He studies there a year. And he was actually, because it's also a boarding yeshiva, there was a family that adopted him, so admire him, and said later that he was part of their family because they so love him, and he always calls them and sends them letters. After he graduated Ma'ale Gilboa, and due to the fact that he is a very high personal data, he chose to serve in the engineering corps unit of the Nachal Brigade. Nachal Brigade is one of the brigade in the infantry, in the IDF. Since he was very dominant and also role model, because the commander realized it from the beginning, he also was chosen to continue to be an officer. He was, I remember when I was in the artillery, that there was a very big maneuver in the south of Israel. I suddenly walk close to the tents. Someone cried me, Ami. I saw Avi so happy. I so happy to see you, and I saw also another friend of us. Let's eat together. Let's be together again. And all what I always see in his face is always smiles, always smiles. I need also to mention that at the time that Avi drafted to the army, it was a difficult time to his family because his mother was very sick. She had a leukemia, and Avi had the same blood type of her, like her, and he flew to the United States because he underwent a very complicated operation in order to donate this kind of type of blood, type of blood. Unfortunately, she died, and this is something amazing. When I went to the funeral, Avi came to me without tears in his eyes and told me, Ami, thank you that you participate in the funeral. And he did it for everyone from our grade. And I'm telling you, for all his friends, it's hundreds of people. He came to them and sang to them. In a letter later that his girlfriend from class A, from the childhood, exposed, he said, when there is loss, there is someone that you died, there is the bad news, but you need also to think on the good news. And I believe that after she suffered, I know that she is now in good world and look for us and safe and sound. And this is what I want to think, not on the vacuum that she created for us, created us. I want to think about that it's now good for her. And this is the reason why I'm strong now. In 1997, in the summer, Avi, with his brigade and battalion, was sent to Lebanon. I only want to explain very in short what the situation in Israel was at the time. In 1982, the first Lebanon war, we started the war because the missiles and the rockets that fired toward the Israeli settlement in the north. In 1985, Israel decided to withdraw and retreat from the Lebanon, but decided that to leave 10% from Lebanon territory as a security strip, in order to secure any firing rocket toward the Israeli settlements. This security strip, in this security strip, there were a lot of posts that actually was kind of a shield in order to protect the Israeli security fence and the Israeli settlements. What happens that every few months there was cycling and the change, the brigades that took the positions there. And at the beginning, and most of there was a convoy, armored convoys that transferred the soldier. Few months before, there was the very big disaster called the helicopter disaster that actually wanted to transfer soldiers to Lebanon, specifically to the post in which Avi sent in the summer. And following to these disasters, there started to be a movement that push the governments to withdraw from Lebanon, from the south of this strip. And this day was not a very happy day, because every few days there was announcements in the media, in the news, 2 soldiers, 1 soldier, 3 soldiers was killed in ambush from Hezbollah. Avi was sent to with his company to a post called Dlat, Pumpkin, Dlat. And in the, he was a commander, he was a first lieutenant, commander of a team, responsible of the team. Their mission was to make an ambush from time to time and try to make sure that no Hezbollah will try to infiltrate to the Israeli security fence. At the morning of September 7th, Hezbollah launched an attack with mortar shell and mortar and fired rocket and shells towards the post. Avi, as a commander and a person, that one of his values is to make sure that to make sure that his soldier will be before him, safe and sound. All the time, he always makes sure that if someone needs to go to Shabbat, he will replace him. He always makes sure that if someone has a problem, he will try to solve him. So at the time that they started with the shelling, he made sure and verified that each soldier in his post secure from the fire, but he exposed himself, and one of the shells struck him directly. He fatally injured, and after hours, unfortunately, he died. I just remember this. My friend told me that this is in the news, has yet to be published, the name. I remember the funeral, and the day after the funeral, his girlfriend said a very, she said that Avi, I'm a little excited, that few days before Avi was killed, they engaged, they got engaged, and the engagement, the party of the engagement was supposed to be at the last date of his Shiva. This was something, was shocked. When I went to the Shiva, she has yet to digest it, lot of years to digest it. Following to it, they also establish a new non-profit organizations that help to women that lost their fiancé, friends, to rebuild and to restore their lives. It's not easy. This is a vacuum to seal. I only want to say that the model, the value of Avi is to put the friends before him, to devote his life to the country, and because people like Avi that devote their life, sacrifice their life, and he knew that he will be exposed, he knew that he will danger himself, he jeopardized his life. Because of people like Avi, the state of Israel continue to survive. He contributed to the country. He was the salt of the state of Israel. And every year when I go to the cemetery, I say to myself, I say to Avi, you will stay young forever, but I wish I will only small part of you, because you are amazing person. His last is forever, and I'm very sad that he couldn't contribute to from his value to the Israeli society anymore.
We'll close with, we have a brief, you actually can, it's not just, you'll be able to see, hopefully maybe tilt a little bit. Let's see if we can tilt it. No, we can't. Can we tilt the monitor a little bit towards the living section? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, pull it back. It's a brief clip. By the way, this is a video that they must have put together of all of his friends. And what Ami put forward for us. There's lots of people, the Bnei Akiva students, telling about how he inspired them. His army buddies talking about like their basic training and how, you know, they had a great unit and they were all wonderful except on Shabbat. Everybody wanted to go home, and everybody knew that Avi, you know, he had a very special Shabbat, special relationship with his family, but he was the one who would volunteer to stay on the base on Shabbat. I just wanted to pick a small clip, so it's about a minute. What you're looking at right now is a soldier who was from the period when Avi was a commander. So this is one of his, I guess, his juniors, a member of his brigade.
אבל הוא גם מאוד מאוד דאג לנו. אני זוכר מקרה שהיה כזה אבהי, שירדנו מהקו פעם אחת, ואתה יורד מהקו, זה מגיעים מאוחר, זה אף פעם לא קבוע בגלל שערות וכאלה. הגענו מאוחר מאוד לעגל, שם נוסעים, ולא היה דרך מסודרת, היינו צריכים לתפוס טרמפים הביתה, והוא הכריח את כולם שמגיעים הביתה, בין 7 ל-10, כולם חייבים להתקשר אליו, להודיע לו שכולם הגיעו בשלום. אני זוכר שאימא שלי מאוד התרשמה מזה.
So what he said was, we would come home on the bus, we'd get home to the traffic circle, be very late, and it wasn't so organized, and everybody would have to catch a tramp, so essentially a hitchhike. And Avi would tell everybody, I'll be home, call me, like he's like their mother, right? So he says, call me when you get home, I want to know you got home safe. So the soldier says, my mother was really impressed. My mefaked in the army says, when we get home, call me, I want to know you got home safe. Okay. This is Avi, by the way.
סך הכל, נצל את ההזדמנות הזאת, לא הייתם בעצם, אני הייתי בהשבעה, נזכרים מזג אוויר, פעם ראשונה שאנחנו נפגשים. אציג את עצמי שקוראים לי אבי, למרות שאתם בטח יודעים, שומעים עליי רק דברים רעים. זה לא כזה רע. בכל מקרה, רציתי להגיד שלום ולהגיד לכם, לילדים שלכם יש את המספר טלפון שלי, לילדים שלכם. הדברים האלה כבר לא ילדים. יש להם את המספר טלפון, אם יש בעיות, כל דבר, אני רוב הזמן בצבא, כן? אבל אם, לפעמים אני בבית, יש בעיות, צריכה להתקשר ולדבר, אין שום בעיה, אנחנו לא בצבא הגדול, אצלנו זה משפחה. זהו, תדעו לכם שיש לכם יופי של ילדים, אתם בטח יודעים את זה.
This is the commander of the army speaking to the parents. And he says, first of all, I want you to know who I am. When you hear bad things, you should know they're not who they're talking about. So then he says to them, your children, they're really not children anymore. They're really big. But they have my telephone number. If there's any problem, you can call me most of the time on the face, but I'm not on the face, you can call me at home. And he said something I think is just really, to me, the reason I chose this particular clip, because I think this really says it all. He says, it's not such a big army, it's really a family. And I think that really sums up what Yom HaZikaron really is and we need to understand. We are, I say this all the time, we are Sof Ma'arav. We are about as far as you can get from any Israeli conflict. We don't live in Kiryat Shmona and worry about the missiles coming into our bedrooms. We don't live in the Gaza envelope and worry about RPGs and fire kites, and we don't have to send our children into the army. And I think it's just so important for us to understand that this is part of Am Yisrael. It's not a country, it's a family, and that these are our cousins and the high school classmates of the people that we care and we love, who are unfortunately buried all too young in these cemeteries. And you hear that this is a gem of a person. This is a beautiful neshama, and someone who gave with all his heart to everyone who he knew. And it's important for us to appreciate what we lose in this moment. And I would like to ask Cantor Urzek to come and recite the Kilma Rachamim, the special memorial prayer that we say for the fallen soldiers of the IDF. You can face. Over here.
El Mole Rachamim Shoichein Bameroimi Ametzeyem Menuchonechoina Kanfei Hashechina B'mahalais Kedoshim Tehorim V'giborim Kezohi Aharakiya Mazhirim Lenishma הקדושים שנלחמו בכל מערכות ישראל במחתרת ובצבא הגנה לישראל ושנמתו במלחמתם ומסרו נפשם Kedushas Hashem Om ve'yomoretz Bavur Sheyanu mispalelim L'chein banu rachamim Yastirem b'seise kinofov le'yoelomim V'yitzeroi b'sronachayim Es nishmo yeseyem Adonai Unachalo Vasom Begane Eden Temenucho Vasom V'yonuchu b'shalom al mishkevoi sevayem v'tahamoid l'chol Yisrael zechusom v'yamidu l'goyro olam l'keitz hayomim v'noemar Amen.
Now, it's important for us to recognize that the transition we're about to go through is appreciating the pain of our loss, but also realizing that we are now going to celebrate the 74th anniversary of the gift that we had to wait close to 2,000 years to be able to have again. And that, the truth of the matter is, it's longer than 2,000 years. Because if you count from the last Jewish sovereign, which is the Maccabees, sorry. Now that's recorded for posterity. The Maccabees, then it stretches even longer than that, and we start the Yom HaAtzmaut tefillah. The Yom HaAtzmaut tefillah you can find on page 37 in the special Yom HaAtzmaut Machzor. If you're following along at home, it starts with Tehillim 107. The Yom HaAtzmaut tefillah is an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different parts of the tefillah. They really took a little bit of everything, including Kabbalat Shabbat, including Hallel, to make a special, unique evening to recognize the special gift that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us in Medinat Yisrael. We have to just lower the mechitzot, and then as soon as those are in place, we'll get the chazan to begin the tefillah. Yeah.
Hoy du ladinoi kitoim kili olam chastoi. Yoim ruguli adinoi ashegolom miyatso. Umearotzos kibtso mimizrach. Umeamarav mitzafoin umiyom. Toba midba bishimoin derech. Oy moishav loy matzahu. Revim ganzemeim nafshon bohem etisatof. Vayizakul Adonai batzalehem mimukoseim yatzileim v'yadichem b'derech yishar aleches elur moishav yodul Adonai chastoy v'nifloisav livnei Adam kispia nefesh keikov nefesh v'yevet milei toiv yoshmei choshech v'tzalmovis asirei oni uvazel kimru imrei el batzasel yoineu Vayachna kemolibon koshu v'yeinoi ze v'yizakul Adonai batzalohem min sukoisem yoshiem yoitziem echoshev v'tzalmoves u'moisoseyem v'nateik yoilu Adonai chastoi v'nifloiso lifnei Adam ki shebedal seis nechoshes urichei bazel gideya Elim derech pishomim u'me'avoinesem yisanu kol echel tisahiv nafsham Vayagiu asharei maves Vayizakul Adonai batzalohem in sukoisem yoshiem Yishlach tevoro v'yirpaim v'maleit mishchisoisam Yoidul Adonai chastoi v'nifloiso livnei Adam V'yizbechu zivchei soido v'yisapru maso berino Yoredei hayom boni yoisesem elach b'mayim rabim Hey Barum Asi Adonai v'nifloiso v'imulov v'yomer v'yamei druach sorov atisomim galov Yalu shomayim yadu somes nafsham berov tismoi gov Yochoigu v'yonu kashi boi v'chol chochmasom tispalo V'yitzakul Adonai batzalohem u'min sukoiseyem yoitziyem Yokem sorov lidmamo v'yecheshu galeihem Vayismechu ki yishtoiku vayanchem el mechois cheptzom Yodul Adonai chasai v'nifloiso livnei Adam v'yiromemuhu b'kalon u'v'moishav zekenim yaleluhu Yosem norues lemidbar motzoi mayim letzimoim eretz berilim leicham yarom meras yoishveva Yosem midbar lagas mayim v'eretz yol lemetzoi mayim Vayoshev shomrei evim, vayachananu irmayishav, vayizu sodois, vayitzu chramim, vayasu pritzvua, vayivarchem, vayidabu meyoid, vahem ton lo yamit. Vayimatu vayasoiru miyatzero beyagoin, shoefech buzal nedivim, vayasem besoiloi dorech, vayisagev evyoim yoini, vayasem katzoin, mishpachois, ירושה ישר וישמח ובכל המלאכות צופייה מיככה וישמעאל ויספיננו חסדי אדוני
We now turn to Tehillim 97, which is the first of the Tehillim of Kabbalat Shabbat. That is part of the Yom HaAtzmaut Nusach.
What page left?
Page 41 in the middle.
אדוני מלך תוגל אורס ישמחו עם רבים ענון ורופס סביבות צדק ומשפט בכל כיסוי איש לפניו תלך וסלעי סביב צרוף עירו ורקב תברו עשו ותאכל אורץ הרים גדוי נגנומס ומלפני אדוני מלפני אדוני כל האורץ יגידו השמיים צדקוי ברוך כל העמים כבודוי יבושו כל אוהבי פסל המסללים בו אלילים ישתחוו לוי כל אוהים שמע ותשמח ציון ותוגנו בנוס יהודה למען משפטך אדוני כי אתה אדוני עליון הכל הארץ מיון עליסו הכל אלוהים אוהבי אדוני שינו ראשו מנפשו יסכסידו מיד שוים יצילם אוהב זרו על הצדיק ולשאלי שמחה שמחו צדיקים באדוני ויועדו לזכר קודשו.
Page 43, again, the Nusach of Kabbalat Shabbat. Mizmor Shiru So you may be wondering what place does Lechadodi have in Yom HaAtzmaut? It's just like, is it the kitchen sink? Why don't we, get a willow frond and, throw in that, right? So I think it's actually very purposeful. You have to understand that Lechadodi is written by the generation of what's called Gerush Sfarad, the expulsion from Spain. And there was almost no moment in Jewish history where Jews went from a period of such privilege to such powerlessness. And if you actually read through Kabbalat Shabbat, you'll notice that there's a consistent theme. And the consistent theme is that we have this sense of trust in God's power, and that ultimately, the nations of the world will be judged. That there is this idea that is also very much understood in the Kabbalah, that there are cosmic forces, and that the forces of the Ferdinands and the Isabellas and the Khmelnytskys and the various oppressors throughout the history of the Jewish people who have pushed us here and pushed us there, ultimately God will come to bring them to a reckoning. And that we say this as we enter Shabbat because we come to a refuge that says they can do whatever they want to our bodies, our souls are protected by God. We have a Shabbat that they won't be able to touch. And here the sense that we have a country that is ours, that we can sculpt, we can shape, we can forge our own destiny, we can fulfill the vision that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had, is a way of, if you will, casting off that portion of that yoke of the anger, of the powerlessness that came at the moment of Ferdinand and Isabella. It is a moment of reclaiming that sense of history and partnership with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you will, it is a moment of the realization of everything that is described in Kabbalat Shabbat, not only in spiritual terms, but also in political terms. We'll now turn to the Ma'ariv service, which is on page 51 in the Yom HaAtzmaut Machzor.
ורחום יכפר אבל ולא ישחס ולא שירפא ולא יקול חמסו אדוני ישיע מלך יעננו ביום קורנו ברכו אס אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד אל חבקי יום תמידים לחולנו לעולם ועד ברכתו אדוני המעריב ערבים כי אם חיינו וחמינו בהם נגע יום ולילה ובשפתו ממנו לעולמי ברכתו אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל
Yeah.
Adonai Elohechem emes. Som Hashem. ומאחוסים רצון כי לא עליהם הישב בני ישראל החלו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמך רנה מי כמך נרסיל אסספלה מלכוס חרו בניך בוקי היום לפני משה זה ליאנו ויאמרו אדוני נאמר כיפת אדוני יעקב וגולה מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גואל ישראל השכיבנו ושמייס סינונו לחיים ושלום יעטו ביד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עם ישראל לעד יכבד שינו להיל קפסלים ברוך אתה אדוני ציונן מסמכי בנוסף אדוני מלך אדוני מלך אדוני מלך לעולם ועד כי אנחנו שנחי לעצמנו בכל כי לנו מלך אלוהתו ברכתו אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלך עלינו לעולם ועד והכל נעשה זכלה מסקדה שמי רבה דיברה חירוסי גם נקרא חוסי בחיי חי נביא מכונו בחיי דחבי ישראל והגולה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן שמי רבה
Rishon Esrei can be found on page 73 in the Yom HaAtzmaut Matzah.
Yes. So, tomorrow. Awesome. We'll take it. Yeah. So, okay. So Kaddish, no, Kaddish, or Shema. Okay. Yeah. Let's see, this one's 3 times. Yom Kippur. Oh, that's 3 times. That's once. Okay, you show some this.
Time to get a glass of hot.
Oh, I have it. I know. That's.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
we don't do it tonight.
Iskada Shemei Rabba Yalma Dibrochir Sei Biam Nikmaku Sei B'Chai Chanu Biam Echad B'Chai Dovis Yisrael B'Agol Bisman Kariv Imru Amen Yesh Mei Amorach Li Elamol Me'al Maya Yismarach B'Shabach Yisma B'Shma B'Stasei B'Sadam Yisrael B'Salon Shvekut Shabrichu Leila Mikol B'Chos B'Shir Asatush Postem Nechem Asadam Yiram Yalma V'Imru Amen Skabetz Lois Musan Chol Beis Yisrael Kodem Avoid B'Shmaya V'Imru Amen Yesh Tamar Rabba Mishmai B'Chaim Olin V'Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen I say Shalom B'Imram V'Yasi Shalom Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Yimeru Amen.
So we're on page 113. The tefillah continues with a buildup that ultimately takes one to Tkiyat Shofar. Here in Galut, we have to remember that Yom HaAtzmaut in Israel is something still a little bit higher than us. So we're not going to blow the shofar, but we'll go through the Nusach, and it concludes with Shir HaMalot and Sirat HaOmer, and we'll of course sing Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Adonai Hu Elohim Adonai Hu Elohim Adonai Hu Elohim. Mi she'asa nisim l'avosinu v'lanu u'galanu me'avdo secheros u'yigalenu gula shelema bekarayv b'kabetz nidochenu me'aba kanfoi soretz chaverim kol Yisrael v'noimar Amen. Skatem b'chatzoy Yisrael Shalom V'Zich Hashem V'Hayu Lechem L'Zikon Lefnei Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Yehi Ratzah V'Vadach Adonai Eloheinu V'Eloheinu Shekshem Shezachinu V'Atchad D'Gula Ken Yizkel Lishma Kol Shofar Shel Mashiach Tzidken V'Rav Yameinu. Amen.
Sira Eshu Adonai Shivat Zion Ayinu Kechavim
You're at the Omer on page 117. אשר קידשנו מצוותיו וציוונו עד סבירת העומר. היום 19 יום שהם 2 שבועות ו5 ימים לעומר. ברוך
עלינו לשבח על כל הסעיף וישבח אנחנו יותר אמס נותן על כן נקרא ולקרוא נאמר ויענוי לבך קורס ביום ידוי אחד ושמוי אחד
קדש.
Kolot baleva penima nefesh Yehudi hamiya ufate Mizrach kadima ayin letzion sofiya
Just want to special thanks to Ami Indor for sharing with us the story of your friend Avi. It was, for me, it was very meaningful, very moving. I really appreciate you doing this. It's a little bit of an unfair thing for me to have asked you to share so publicly, but I think I speak for everyone that this made this a very meaningful night for us. I want to thank everyone also for participating, the Chazan for his beautiful tefillah, and please God, I think next year it's a big anniversary. So we need to plan big. Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim. Shachrit is at 6:45. Mit Hallel.